second place.
All right. We're going to have a
Like
good
it.
time tonight. We have, first of all, we just want to say thank everyone for joining us on the T is Talking platform tonight. And we're going to have a good time. We have a good topic, and I have some great guests who are here to share with me on tonight. Uh, it's going to be a good time. Tell all your friends to come by and check us out because we're getting ready to get started. Amen. I have, you know what? I'm gonna let them introduce themselves because I don't think I would be doing them justice. I'll just give you their names, and then I'll let them tell you how wonderful they are. Friends for a very long time. I have she has Miss Rhoda Melvin. I'll stick with that. It's like Renee. I'm like, your name is Dina. Nobody told me your name was Dina.
Mhm.
And then we have I'm the pain in the neck. I call her all the time, Miss Leslie Ratcliffe. She saves me a many a time,
Mhm.
a many a time. Praise God. And so we thank God for her on tonight. So we're gonna let Gail tell you a little bit about her, what she does, who she is, and then we're gonna do the same with Les, and then we're gonna move on into our topic for tonight.
So those of you that are looking on the screen, no, I do not have a twin. This is Gail Williams. Depending on where you know me from and how we met, you're either going to know me as Gail Williams. That's anyone from Church Street South and age 18 on down. And then when I became mature, I took on my government name, which is Rhoda.
Mhm.
And
Now we understand.
those when I went to college and up know me as Rhoda. But nevertheless, born and bred in Connecticut. Um, Profession, I am a forensic accountant for the government, background in auditing and fraud investigations. I'm currently living in the DMV, and in addition to working for the government, I have my own practice. Outside of all of that, and being a child of the King, I have the most wonderful life as a mother of four and a grandmother of four, which are my pride and joy. I um, would feel my life will be a failure without them. So that is who I am.
All right. And Miss Ratcliffe.
I'm Leslie Radcliffe, lifelong New Haven, what? Lifelong New Haven resident. I'm the elder of the group. I've been around for a long time. I'm a couple of months away from retirement from Yale University after 25 years. Praise God. I'm a member of Pitts Chapel Church. I'm a mother of one, grandmother of two teenagers, one of which is about to graduate from high school, who just got a car. And so we're going to pray for her. I am one of eight. I have five sisters. Um, and actually, just before this, got off a prayer call with them. So if I get like that every now and then, it's because, the Holy Ghost is still working with some things that we prayed on because we just like really went in. And like Tarolyn says, call me and I'll be there. Tell me what you need. I'll either tell you yes or no. And I have learned how to say no.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Just
glad you
not to
haven't shared
everybody.
that with me yet, but
It doesn't happen too often.
No, no,
I'm
no.
getting some emails saying that my page is private. My page isn't private. That's something that Facebook is fooling around with, and I want to say to those who I'm trying to find a link for it. I'm gonna put it right on here on Facebook. For T is Talking on YouTube. I'm live there. I think next week what I'm going to do also is I'm going to be live on Instagram. See, it's just forcing me to be a little bit more broader in my approach. That's all that is. Um, and here we go. I'm gonna put it right in the comments. Y'all can go to YouTube if it's giving you a hard time. Here we go. Uh, I heard some from last week. Some folks said that they were having a hard time getting on, and I went back and double checked, and everything said public. So I assumed that I ended up being public because I had so many people send me friend requests from Africa and and from everywhere. I'm like, I don't even know who these people are. But I'm an equal opportunity Sunday night host, so I let everybody in. You're free to stay as long as you don't start no shenanigans. I had a couple of, hey, beautiful, and all this kind of stuff here. And I'm like, all right, now, listen, don't get put out the church of the
That's
living
the
God.
topic, you know?
Don't get put out. Because, I got a trigger finger that's kind of happy. I'm sending the link. The link is right in the. If you're having trouble, just click that and go on the YouTube. They ain't having no problems over there. That page is just fine. But tonight I have and Pastor Muntz is coming. He has something else before this, but tonight I wanted to talk about the topic of colorism, and I thought you two guys would be able to add something to the conversation by way of experience. And we talked a little bit about it when I got on the call with you guys, but we've been seeing so many things in the news as it relates to race and color and how it's affecting people. And I'm like, I know our forefathers thought it was a good idea to have this melting pot. What they thought they were going to have a melting pot. It seems like we're more like oil and water. And trying to figure out from this place that we're in now how to move forward and how to get along. And then I think it's a thing of people of color have to figure out a way to heal themselves. And the church used to be the place we went for healing. I still go to the church myself. I still go to God in prayer. But it seems like this next generation is very turned off from church, and they don't understand the historical placement church has for us by way of healing. But to bring it on more down to the shenanigans level that I like to keep things on, just talking about our everyday experiences. And there's a great disconnect. I want to do all of this in the front before we start talking. There's a great disconnect even with our Caucasian brother, and we love our Caucasian folks. We're not trying to be any kind of way with them, but they just do not understand our experience. And so even with, we see the thing with Black Lives Matter and people want to paint over it, and we're going through all of these shenanigans. And I'm like, it's just a disconnect. You live on the same street, but different houses, and there's different experiences. So I wanted to bring us on to kind of, share some of those things and maybe be helpful to people who are struggling, trying to make some sense of what's going on. So I think a good question to start off with for both of you would be, maybe when was the first time you came in contact with, or how old were you when you realized that color was an issue, or color was something that had an effect on your life in any way? Whichever one want to go first.
I can go. I'd have to say I was probably 8, 9 when it really dawned on me, hey, people well, let's be clear, the little boys in the class want the light-skinned girl with the pretty hair.
Mm. Yeah. How about you, Les? Your sound is off, Les.
When I became a teenager, prior to my teen years, I was in the background, quiet child. So I did outside of school and just playing outside. I really didn't have an awareness of a lot of things. I spent a lot of time in books and in TV, but it was when I got to that pubescent age, where, like Gail said, boys started noticing. It wasn't really the boys that made me realize that my color, my complexion was the issue. It was the girls, that let us know. And when I say us, I'm talking about me and my 5 sisters. let us know that, oh, y'all think you're all of that
Mm.
Okay.
because you're light skinned. And prior to that, I mean, the neighborhood that we grew up in was a multicultural neighborhood back then. In the day of Brookside, it was a true melting pot, but we didn't melt. Everybody had their own identity.
Right.
The Italians were the Italians. They weren't just white people; they were Italian, and
Mm-hmm.
the Irish and the Polish and the French, because it was a post. What was that? What World War was the last one too?
Two.
Post
Yeah.
World War II housing development.
Mm-hmm.
So we had African American, we had Hispanic, with just some of everyone. So race and color weren't really an issue.
Mm.
Uh, and I will say this, not until they developed Rockview. And that was when a whole another group of people came in that was separated from where we live.
Mm.
And they had not been in place as long as Brookside was. So it almost became like different sides of the track. Even though we lived on the same street, we were here and they were there. And when we showed up at the park, it might have been a scene from, what is that, East Side? Uh, uh, um, Whatever that musical is, with the East Side and the West Side, And it was the girls in Rockview, that let me know that I was what was considered, light skinned.
Mm.
And because I was light skinned, I must think I'm better than anybody else.
But it's funny that you asked that question too, Tarolyn, because I never thought about how young I was
Uh,
when I really noticed it, because I have encountered situations with my granddaughters who are 7 and 9, and this was maybe a year or two ago, where they wanted to play with the white doll
mm.
instead of the black doll because they thought the white doll was prettier.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I told you I just had a situation. Hopefully, he's not watching. My brother said to me, he doesn't think he would be interested in dating black girls. And I'm like, you do know me and mommy is black, don't you? Uh,
Yeah.
and so I understand the city he lives on is predominantly white. And I said to Leslie, the thing is, he's a maybe a hair darker than her, and in their eyes, he's considered Negro. I won't say the other one with the
Right.
A. And I said to him that um, I think my issue is not necessarily people having a preference. You know, I prefer Burger King burgers over McDonald's, and I do that because to me it tastes better.
Right.
But for someone to have a preference because of external pressures is different than I just like that because it's cute to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm concerned about that. But however, I said to him, I'm gonna have to take you down to Hill Houses so you can see some different kind of beauty. Um, uh, and he's got nice hair. He's got light eyes. Come on, he's what I'm looking for at 46. But he's not looking for me. You see
Right.
what I'm saying? And
Right.
so this has become this to me. This is an important conversation because I think that because when you experience it so young, you
Mhm.
grow. It's a part of your DNA. When I was, I think kindergarten, I was bussed out. I didn't go to Lincoln Bassett. I went to Bear Path, which is a school in Hamden.
Mhm.
And then I had a culture shock because I came, I think sixth grade. I came to Jackie Robinson when it was underwater.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely a culture shock. And then I'm darker than both of you, and so it was a thing of I ended up being best friends with a lot of the guys because, of course, my makeup. I play basketball. I'm into music, but I didn't have the problems that my best girlfriends had, who were always being hit up by them. And I'm not sure if that's dark skin or if it's my winning personality. But I'm going to say that I think that color definitely plays a role in that, and it's something that I'm not sure if a lot of this generation of young people understand that they have these preferences not because it's the person that they like, but like color's still a status symbol. Y'all, do you
Mhm.
guys feel that?
Mhm.
It's
It,
still.
it is the image that they see, on television. Even the commercial, the commercialism, the standard of beauty that's on television. That has not really changed. It may have uh, gone a little bit farther into the color spectrum, a little bit, but not so much that it's balanced.
Right.
You have not just the image, the skin tone, but you have the skin tone, the hair, the shape of the nose, the shape of the lips,
Yep.
the size of the body, because and let's just be real about it. I don't know what the sister's name is, but on Black Panther, with the bald head, white nose,
Oh,
thick lips,
Hmm.
wide hips.
Hmm.
That was not, and still is not yet the standard.
Right.
I noticed the other day, I saw a picture of Michelle Obama with her natural hair. While she was in the White House, she didn't wear her natural hair,
Right.
but now that she's no longer the wife of the president of the United States, she can be a
Be
little bit more
herself.
free
It,
to
be
express
herself.
herself.
Yeah, and that's what happens. We all have a face. We all have a corporate face, and
Mhm.
then we have a home face. Um,
oh,
I'm,
yes.
go ahead. You can talk, Gail. She's like, oh
Now,
yes, Lord, come on, right here.
okay, so when I left the government, quote unquote, in 2015, to start my own practice, I did me. That's when I first went natural, shaved my head hair down to like this much, bleached it a little red, and I was comfortable being me,
Mhm.
the mocha princess that I consider myself. Got offered, obviously, good position to where I couldn't turn it down back in November of 2018. And if you were to look at my Zoom picture, ran straight to the salon and said, I need you to give me some creamy crack. I need a shortcut with a flip up because I cannot walk in to my government office
Absolutely.
with a fro.
No, no.
So
That's unacceptable.
that's unacceptable to sit at the table where there may be 10 or 15 people and two that look like me, including me.
Hmm.
And it's funny because now with the pandemic and our salons being closed, granted, I mean, I could take advantage of my daughter, but I tried not to. But so I haven't been in a salon since February until last week.
Mm.
And she was like, so what are you gonna have done? I said, you know what? Wash it and put some rosin. I don't want a relaxer. I'm gonna let it roll however it rolls.
Right.
And I'm comfortable with that.
Right.
But it took me 2 years of being comfortable in the environment before I try it. You know what I mean? And
Right.
Mhm.
again, it's unfortunate that our appearance will impact our career path.
Mhm.
I mean, we
You
see
know?
people all the time who have dreads, who constantly face
Oh,
uh, being asked to cut their hair, to change their hair. I think it was just not too long ago, a young boy was denied his graduation, wasn't it?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because he refused to change his dreads for something more suitable. I don't, I guess. And to me, it's like this is the year 2020. I'm amazed because when we came up, we used to watch the Jetsons, and I'm just amazed that in the year 2020 we are still talking about color and how important that is to people still.
Mhm.
And I'm like, wow, we're still dealing with this. This is crazy. Um, but it's still
And
amazing.
it may
It's
not even always be on the same, we're talking about the corporate world, and education and things like that, but when you asked me to sit on the panel, you told me what the topic was, I started thinking about, experiences. When did my color, my complexion, you know, become an issue? Not necessarily a negative, but something that I awakened to.
Hmm.
And even when I talked to you, when you said you wanted to be beyond, I said, oh, "Okay, you need a light skinned sister." It's okay. But I said, you know, now there's even within my family.
Mm.
I said, I'm not, and we just talking here, right? Just tease talking.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not the yellow one in my family,
Hmm.
and I have five sisters. I'm the middle in the middle group, but I have two or three sisters that, and they might be watching and they know who they are, but we call them the light brights.
Yes.
They're yellow.
Hmm.
And I have two sisters who are more brown,
Mm.
browner than me, maybe not as brown as Tarolyn, just a little bit. And we call them red, not to be confused with red bone,
Right.
but red. And I'm in that middle complexion, so I took on orange,
Mm.
but I did not want to be yellow.
Mm.
I didn't want to be yellow,
Right.
because yellow girls, light skinned girls, it was like being removed a little bit from your blackness. The lighter you were,
Hmm.
the less black. And I'm born in the 50s, coming up in the 60s. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. I couldn't get an afro. My little lightweight hair would not sustain, and it just kept flopping over to the side. So at least let me have some color. So I didn't want to be the yellow girl.
Mm.
So I was orange. I took on that identity. That's what I am. I'm orange. But
So
I also found out that,
inside your home,
excuse me,
Say it again.
I said, so if you're doing that to each other in the home, the
in the
safe,
home. Yes.
I mean, what do we expect in the classroom, in the boardroom, on the playground,
Mhm. In the relationships.
in the
Oh,
rela-
oh, God. We ain't even get there yet, Lord Jesus.
so
Okay.
we're starting this behavior inside of the home. So
Right.
it's
Because
almost
it
like
comes into the
expect
home. We bring it with us. That's the baggage that we carry. It's like if it's something that's put on you at birth, oh, she's so pretty. Oh, look at her skin. Oh,
here
look
is
at it. My mama when we were born, my mother physically shaped our noses,
Wow.
okay, so that they would not be wide.
Wide.
So you have every mother shapes their child's head, but she shaped our noses too, so they would not be wide.
Wow.
Now my nostrils flare a little bit, but it's been shaped.
Gotcha.
So from our birth, some of us have been shaped. We may not have even have known the why, or
Right.
even seen it or become aware of it until somebody else brings it to your attention. Like that girl in Rockview that thought I wanted her boyfriend. I didn't want her boyfriend, but her boyfriend, and it has its negatives too, because just like we would talk about how the brothers, would want that white girl as a trophy. Sometimes the light skinned girl was the trophy. We weren't the relationship. We
Ah, that's good. That's
we
good
were the
right there.
toy. We were the toy. And I have to look back at my many many years and experience. It's almost like I was never the long term choice.
Mm.
If you want to call me arm candy,
Mm.
and it's not like I was all that cute, but I was light skinned,
Mm.
you know. But I wasn't going to be the one to take home the mama,
Mm.
but I was going to be the one to, you know,
Parade around the friends.
yeah. So, light skin don't always have its privileges.
I just wanna break in right here with months coming in. Uh,
Yes, the dark chocolate brother. Praise God. I'm sorry.
we have
Bless you,
uh,
God.
we have Gail with us. You met Leslie before, months, but you've never met Black and
Yeah.
Bold. All right.
all
Uh,
right.
he's coming in to be our, like Leslie said, our chocolate brother. And we were just talking about the first time that we realized that color was an issue, or color, how color impacted us. I don't know if you have a story. For most of us, it started pretty young, and
I think one of my earliest recollections of where color was an issue was I was bussed out of the inner city schools, and I was bussed into the suburbs.
Mm.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that there's my camera right there. All right. So that's one of the biggest things that made me look at color.
Mm.
My son has just recently on Facebook, he's 20 something now, I don't know off the top of my head. But he just recently put on Facebook about some of his personal experiences when he went to school and how he was, I think the word is castigated because he was a black boy.
Mm.
I don't vividly remember any of that from a very young age. The first time that I actually remember it is I was in 7th grade, and I was dating a young lady named Mary Noland. And so we can all assume that with a name like Mary Noland, she was one of our very light-skinned sisters.
Mm.
And so I picked up the phone one day to call Mary, because that's what we would do. Little did I know Mary was sneaking to talk to me, but I called her one day, and her mom picked up the phone, and I said, "Hello, may I speak to Mary, please?" She said, "Are you black?"
Lord Jesus.
That's what her mom said. I said, "Yeah, can I speak to Mary, please? My daughter will not be talking to any niggers." Click. And I mean, when I tell you, it literally broke my heart, because I was like, well, what did I do? And I think 7th grade was really when it hit me that I was going to this area where the racism and the colorism was hidden.
Mm.
And so I had a lot of friends who I'm not gonna say all of them, but a lot of them, they were genuine. But then there were some who I believe only did it because I was there. And I would hate to hear what they said when I wasn't around them.
Mm.
But for me, that first instance was in that 7th grade, and it was strictly, you're black, you don't fit, you don't belong.
And you're definitely not going to talk to my daughter.
And you're not going to talk to my daughter. And I think that, I know the conversation is kind of like colorism far as, African Americans, but in that sense, I think we just picked on each other as kids. You light-skinned it, and when I got older, use a red bone. I heard somebody, use that phrase. I was the black guy. I was chocolate, I was dark chocolate. Everybody liked dark chocolate. And then, of course, there was a time when, chocolate wasn't in, light skin was in. And, I still go with the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. I just picked some strawberries the other day. They were really dark and it was sweet.
So this is a good question. So do you think that this racism thing is taught?
Oh yeah, that goes without saying. I watched a video the other day, and I'm sure the guy put it on there just to kind of show this. He showed his son 4 pictures of 4 interracial kids interacting with each other. He says, "What's the deal with this one?" He said, "They smiling, they laughing, they look like they're having fun. Oh, they hugging each other." And so he kept saying, "Well, what stands out different?" He said, "The first one." He said, "Well, what's so different about the first one?" He said, "The grass is greener." Not one time did the kid say, "That's a black kid and a white kid," because in his house, he was taught that there is no difference. Mm-hmm. But it is taught, racism is taught when you immediately call someone that's a black child, not a child. And, I'll just be who I am. And it's the same thing when we teach our kids that's a white child. you know. So we have to be careful about that as well.
Well, and I also think it's not always so cut and dry. You know, it
Mhm.
is taught. We agree with that, and we may not say, what it is, but our actions show, as parents, what it is that we model in our behavior. Because kids most of the time, they see what you do. They may not hear what you say. They don't pay attention to what you say. Kids don't listen anyway, but they do see what you do, and if they see how you, well, the word, things go in one ear and out the other, so you have to
Mhm.
constantly model a behavior, and they will model your behavior. They're going to mimic what it is they see, so that if you react to people in a certain way,
True.
that's what's going into them. This is how I'm supposed to function. So you don't have to say, don't talk to niggas. But if you don't talk to black people, then that child will model that mother or that father, that behavior. So what it is they see their parents do is what they're going to do. So you can either say it or just do it.
Mhm.
So I'm in agreement that it is taught, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. You don't talk to black kids, and you're different because you're black. But just in whatever it is that you show your children, they're gonna do what it is that you show them. You know.
But if we agree, or if we can agree that it's taught, we have to visit the reason why.
Mm.
And I say that, I'll give you an example. A coworker of mine, she just had a baby, not just, almost a year now, in September, and she's Ecuadorian, and she's probably a little browner than you, Les, not as brown as I am, but she married a white person,
Mm.
and her spouse's family didn't really care that they were married to someone from Ecuador.
Mm.
Like they would make comments about, oh wow, you went to school, that school, oh you have that degree, oh you're pretty educated, you know what I mean? So they already downplayed who she was because of her ethnicity. So her fear, and she had the conversation with me, her fear when she was pregnant, she was like, she knew she was having a girl. She's like, what if my daughter comes out browner skin?
Mm.
And she's like, and if something happens to me during delivery, would
Wow.
you would you mind helping my spouse get things squared away? And I took a step back and I'm saying, you're married to someone where you're concerned whether or not the color of your child's skin would determine their safety in the home.
Wow.
So
Mhm.
they moved to a very predominantly white area in Northern Virginia. Their kids go to a predominantly white school. And again, that takes me back to, why are they taught? There had to be some situations where she was chastised or bullied or whatever because of her skin, that she didn't want her child to go through that same thing.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because even amongst ourselves, Leslie says she was picked on by uh, black girls predominantly about her um, complexion. And I said before, my little brother goes to a predominantly white school, and he's never said he's been picked on, but just some of the insensitive things that might be said. So he comes home one day and he says his friend says his skin looks like a chicken nugget, and uh, because I'm silly, I laughed because it does. He's very golden brown. I'm like, you listen, you are the golden boy. Um, I knew that that's not the way they meant it, but um, oh, hold
I,
on.
I was wondering, the thing over there had the red light on.
Oh, don't worry about it.
That's a good one.
Uh, I should have changed it earlier, but I know one thing for sure. If it had gotten twisted in any way, they didn't want a bigger, blacker Negro over
Mm.
at that school. I know they didn't want that.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
and so I wonder, I wonder, as we are teaching our kids, you know, I don't know if that was the right thing to say to him and my little brother or not, but I knew that I wasn't going to give the devil any opportunity
Mhm.
to make him feel inferior because of someone's ignorance. And I wonder sometimes if we could speak to that today, like some of the things that might have been said to you that could have been hurtful, you know, um, being the chocolate one, or because when I was coming up, you could very easily be Blackie, you know, even in your own family,
Mhm.
you could very easily be Blackie.
Hmm.
Now, Carolyn, do you think that you might have missed the opportunity to show or to talk to him about how insensitive that comment was and how it really was a bit shady?
It was shady.
And he should be aware that people often say what they want to say in a humorous way
Mhm.
so that you don't take offense to it, but they have the opportunity to say how they really feel.
I don't know, because they were so small. It was like it was almost like kindergarten. I took it as a kid really just being observant. I don't know if it was I don't know if it was a dig. It was an observation by a small child. And I didn't want to it's almost like having the conversation with them now that they're 18 and 20 about if the cops pull you over, keep your hands on the steering wheel. And I didn't want to have a conversation prematurely because he was so small at the time. We had the conversation about, I took it this way, Gail. I said, well, his skin looks more like milk and your skin looks more like chicken nugget. And I took it to the place where I'm like, don't we love chicken nuggets? Oh, they are golden brown, and you are the stuff, my brother.
Mhm.
Um, and so I didn't push the negative side of it because I knew that in first grade you got another 11 years with these people. But I did when we had a meeting with the principal and some teachers and stuff. I said, now listen, y'all can play this game if you want to. And when he turns 16 and I can't control him, you'll have another Columbine on your hands, okay?
Oh
So
Lord,
y'all stop playing with him. Y'all stop. You know,
I,
tease
don't do it
something.
I,
because these things grow up, and it sounds extreme, but these
yeah,
things grow up with you.
they do.
There are things that I grew up with because I was Blackie, because they didn't want, black wasn't in style. I learned how to flip it, and thank God chocolate is in style now. I just told you my DM is full of all these Africans.
It, it,
I
it's
think that we also have to be sensitive to the fact that sometimes you have to meet people,
Where
even
they,
children. You got to meet with them where they are.
right.
A 4-year-old is not going to understand the racism. A 6-year-old may not. And depending on their experience, like I said, I didn't have I didn't experience what I experienced until later in life
Mm,
because my environment at that time was so mixed. So everybody was different.
mm,
And also I think it was the time that it was, the economics of the neighborhood. Everybody was struggling, and everybody needed a cup of sugar. So you just went and got a cup of sugar from whoever had a cup of sugar. And that was what my environment was. But the environment that other people may be in, there may not, there may not be that room. There may not be that balance. Like I went to parochial school, all white school,
mm.
but I did not recognize some things because of my experience outside of school. So when I went to school, my mama had already had the moment. You smart, you're beautiful. You can be anything that you want to. And when I showed up, I was just different because I was a Black Catholic.
Oh Lord,
So
you added that to the
yeah,
mix.
be a light skinned Black Catholic. So you just want to be left alone. That's just
not
leave me
really
alone. Good
black.
grades.
You're right,
Right.
right, right. She's already light skinned, and then she's Catholic, so she surely ain't black. She ain't Pentecostal or
Thank you.
Baptist. That's a problem.
but like my grandchildren, my grandchildren, their mother's Filipino. So when they were born, I mean, they looked Asian or Mexican. It just depended on what day of the week it was. And my grandfather's first exposure to people that were darker complexion, because I was probably the darkest that she had seen, until she came out into the public, because the majority, aside from her father, were Caucasian complexion. They were white. And I took her to a cookout. Gail knows Margaret. I took her to Margaret's house for a street cookout. So she's totally out of her experience. Is on Sheffield Avenue. It's in the hood, cooking out in the front yard. Cement sidewalk.
All the way hood.
All the way in the hood, and
All the
she
way
was
hood.
cowering, because she was out of her element. So not only is she out of her environment, she's in a new environment that she's never been exposed to. And these people do not, and I say these people with all, honest intentions, these people do not look like her at all. And the fact that they were adults didn't help, because now they're big and they black and they're loud. And I'm somewhere where so it was traumatic for her. I'm watching this little baby shake and I'm like, what? Oh, okay.
Culture
Next time
shock.
I take her out, it's to Lighthouse. And there are darker complexion people there, but there are also children that she could play with. So now they're on her level, they're little. And she grabbed the little boy by his little chocolate hand and she said, come on, let's go play. So she was okay with that. It was quieter, it was green, and he was small, and it was safe. So
balance.
I don't know where that came from, but
You mentioned balance, and Tarolyn just mentioned culture shock. So from a parent standpoint, where do you start? Like, how do you make it easy or give your child the experience so that they do not have those type of behaviors when they are out in the world? And I ask that question because, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and we were from Church Street South, currently called the Jungle. Well, no longer exists. So when I had kids, I'm thinking, I'm gonna move to a culturally diverse area, which at the time was Hampden, but now Hampden has even evolved. So, my children went to school with all races. It was just a mixture. But I'll tell you, especially for my girls, they could not wait to go to a HBC. When they got grown, they just felt like they did not have the Black experience growing up.
Well, that's what you was trying to keep them away from. That's why my mother left the hood and went out to the suburbs, because I said, we got two boys who are impressionable. What I don't need is to have to get into a situation with Junebug and them on the corner of Winchester and Star Street. Okay? Because I'm very protective about my family. Let me just tell you, I tell the people in the church, I tell everybody, if you want me to start a church in Niantic, you fool with them. So we were intentional about getting them out of there. We were intentional about getting them out of there. Was it better experience? I don't know, but I will say this. Yes, they do. Even my younger sister, Lord, we tried our best to keep her out of New Haven, and it's like a magnet. She just loves to be there with the crazy people. But I will say this. I did not want brothers with the yo-yo. I didn't want the brothers with the pants hanging down. I did not want my brothers. So I understand you wanted to get them out of that influence. Yes, maybe they did miss some of the hood, the best part of the hood. But sometimes the lower part of the hood influences children more than you want it to. And you can't hear me?
It's acting up.
I don't know. This internet be doing its own thing. But sometimes it's the price you pay for trying to save them.
But when you said you were talking and the light bulb went off, and I'm glad you finished talking. But when we're talking about the dangers in the hood, but we're talking about dangers in the hood in relationship to color, in relationship to race, you know, and that I think is something that we need to, you know, what is if there's a relationship, you know, because I heard what you were saying, you know, you wanted to get your kids out into a more diverse neighborhood, but diverse or safer. And if it's a
Both,
safer
both.
neighborhood,
Because when you were coming up, they wanted to beat you up because you were light skinned. Now
mhm,
they killing folk because they light skinned.
Well,
Absolutely.
and dark skin, they just killing
And
folks.
all skins.
Yeah, they just killing folks, you know. But
I,
you had said about, you know, moving somewhere away from the black folks, you know, and
Away from the
that's
black
that.
folks.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Not so much as away from the black folks, but the
Mentality. We're trying to move away from a mentality.
I wanted them to be exposed to. I, I I heard growing up you were a doctor, a lawyer, or police. I I wanted them to think about being an archaeologist or, you know, being a astrologist, or I didn't want those boundaries.
Limitations. Those limitations.
Exactly, exactly. And we all know in order to have those kind of thinkings, you have to be exposed to different things. And where I was, I didn't get the exposure. Now, whether it was there and I just didn't realize it, or I was not exposed to it and it was in our surroundings, I wanted to put them in an environment that they could get what I didn't have.
Right. I agree with that.
From whether
one
it was from a teacher or the neighbor next door or the Jewish guy down the street. You know what I mean? I knew early enough that I couldn't give them everything they needed to just explore every parts of their brain or their thinking.
I
one of
also
the things.
I want to say before you say that, Muntz, those of you who are in the chat who are watching and speaking to me, if you have any questions or statements you want to make as it relates to racial issues or colorism, feel free to, and I'll raise those questions as we continue this conversation. Go ahead, Muntz.
One of the things that um, is it Rhoda? Rhoda.
Yes. Yeah,
Rhoda
wait,
was,
yeah. You gotta call me Rhoda because you met me over 18.
oh,
We'll
okay.
explain that later.
I was gonna say you can let me in on the joke a little later on.
But you missed the intro, so we'll have to fill you in after.
Okay, all right.
We can watch the
One of the
tape.
things that I was gonna say when you talk about how as parents do you deal with this, so you see that I'm dark. My son is literally a carbon copy of me. He is dark. He's 16, and he's been dealing with it since kindergarten and all. And this is going to a mixed school, meaning that there is a plethora of black and white people. And he has been called all of the names. Why are you so dark? How do you know this don't make no sense? And you know, do black people this and all of that kind of stuff. And he has been good enough to come home and talk to me. And one of the things that I poured into him was, you are who you are, and these people who don't know any better, you know, you've got to work around it. And it took him a while, and I still believe that it bothers him some. But you know, he'll tell you what he'll tell you is, well, it don't matter. I know, you know, I know I'm good. And as a 16-year-old, if you could imagine a kid 13, 14 years old and nobody liking him because he is black, I mean, dark black, and I could see where it was taking a toll on him. And so if, as a parent, it's just about recognizing what your kids are going through and sitting down with them and saying, no, don't allow society to tell you that you have to be something different than what you are. You are who you are. You are unique. Your skin color is unique. Your mind is unique. You know, and of course, as a parent, what I said was just outdo them education-wise. Well, now I've got a student who is an honor student who plays the violin, who runs cross country track, who is one of, I think, 2 black guys on his team. And so, and he has this determination now, because I believe that we poured into him, is that we went to an interview for a specialty school so that he could go and they could really kind of dial down on his violin and teach him more of that. And what ended up happening was he got rejected, I think, at 4 different schools, and that hit him hard. But he had one person say, well, your hands are too big, you can't play the violin. That was what he was told.
Wow.
And so I told him, I said, would you like to do the viola? I can go buy you a viola. He says, no, I'm going to prove him wrong.
Right.
And so he is going into his junior year and about to be first chair, first violin.
Wow.
Because again, all of those outside things, and maybe that's, he internalized some of that push that we gave him. Don't allow what people say about your skin color to stop you, slow you down, but you keep pushing. So, I think it's just recognizing your children and being there for them and talking them through it. I mean, and I told him, I got picked on because I was black, but you know what? I'm fine. It don't matter to me,
Have you ever encountered colorism in people expecting less from you intellectually?
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, yeah. Oh, you know that? Yeah. I mean, let's just talk about basic Facebook posts where people come onto your Facebook and they try to ride you, and you like, you got the wrong one. I'm educated. I read every day. You can't come to me with these fake arguments. I got into it yesterday with a guy for almost 2 hours because I posted a picture of Sally Hemings and talked about how she was raped as a 13-year-old child. And he comes on talking about there's no excuse for bad behavior. I said, you're absolutely right. Thomas Jefferson's behavior was bad. And so he wanted to go back and forth. But I told him, I said, you're in the wrong post. You didn't even discuss what was going on in the post, and you're in the wrong post trying to create havoc.
It's insane on social media. I got into an argument. Leslie, I think, is familiar with this, with a musician who clearly did not read my post to understand, and he reposted it. And I had a big war with a bunch of musicians about the value they add to the service beyond the bump. And they went on and on and on. And, oh, you're a second grade preacher. I'm like, obviously you don't know me. Because my education is farther than probably yours will ever go,
And your
my
dad's.
musicianship is probably, but again, it's because I'm black and I'm a woman in a circle, in a circle full of men, and the last thing black musicians want is a black woman telling them that that's not what she wrote. Can you play it the way I asked? And I go through this continually, even after I pay them. I got like 3 producers I done paid, and they give me my song back, and I'm like, where in the heaven and the hell did you hear this? Because this is not what I gave you. And then they come back with I play for this one, and I'm on the road with that one, and I'm like, I don't care who you on the road with, because they'll take anybody on the road. Were you in the session? That's what I want to know. Come on.
Hello.
And so you get that pushback because people think intellectually you're not a certain way. I'm like, I get it. I'm not high yellow. I get it. I'm not a bald, light-skinned man. And I understand. And definitely I'm not a bald, light-skinned gay man, because that's what the gospel music industry caters to. I'll say it, and before I take it back, I'll add to it. And so I get that pushback a lot of times, even as a pastor. It's always that second guessing, and I say the same thing as Scene said, child, I got all my sleep. Go ahead and do it. And I try to use some form of restraint, even though I know y'all think I don't have any. And my mother especially don't think I have any restraint. because I don't want to injure people who don't know me. Like I got like 20 Facebook friend requests of people I don't know. So when people don't know you personally, this is why I continue to say, why you send people friend requests that you don't know personally? My camera about to do something crazy again. And so we got to be we you know. So I wanted to know, like, is there any time where you encountered people who thought, oh, she ain't as bright because she's black, or he's not as bright because
you running out of space on your what you call it now. You got 39 seconds left.
Yeah, I'll be back. Don't worry. It's so many cameras in here. It is. I just chose this one today that's acting crazy.
Okay, so Leslie, let me ask you: do you feel that though people have expected you to be smarter because you're light-skinned?
That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, that's. I was going to let Rhoda Gail speak to it first because I might intend to run on and on, but not that I'm not smart now. You know,
right?
Well, I testify to that. I
can give it to you, but people do have expectations that, okay, you know, she must know what it is she's talking about. She must be smart, you know, but the other part is she's also not a threat. Or
wow.
You know, I am not expected to go off on you, you know, because and that's there's a whole lot that goes behind that. Because of my complexion, I'm more like that he couldn't stand this, right? He couldn't hear this part. Okay. I'm more expected to be like, you know, the gentle white girl that a brother might pick, who's not going to challenge him, you know. So I'm expected to be as close to that while being black, you know. So I check off the boxes, you know, of diversity. You know, we hired a black female, but we hired a not so threatening black female who's smart. And then when I do go off, it's a shock, you know, because, oh my God, you know,
I didn't know she had it in her. I didn't know she had it in her. Versus I'm the opposite, I guess, because I'm darker. I'm expected to be the angry black woman.
And then when I go off, it's like, oh, she really is black. You know, so okay, now my veracity is tied to my blackness, not the fact that you caused an offense and I'm responding to it. It's
and
not you, it's me.
And you're human, and you're supposed to have a reaction to foolery.
So like when Gail was asking as far as the response, you know, how we respond to our young people when they receive something that's thrown at them negatively, but they receive it innocently. Should we bring it to their attention? Sometimes you have to bring it to their attention. Well, if they're ready to catch it, you know, catch it as you throw it, or
I want to come in there, but I'll go in
here. As you say, you know,
I'll come in here.
I do have to remind people sometimes that, you know,
nothing, babe. Okay.
We don't want people to judge us based on
the color
of our skin or our complexion, but we also don't want them to forget it. Don't not see me.
No.
But don't judge.
No, I'm gonna stay right here. I can set a nice little background right here.
Don't judge me on the color or the complexion, but honor it. Honor my color and my complexion and the history and experience and all of that come with it. Because, you know, whether, you know, I know it at this age, maybe back then, it's not that I didn't know that I was beautiful and fearfully and wonderfully made, you know, because my mama told me that when I was younger, but then I had that period in between where I didn't get that back, you know. So, you know, I was kind of lost then until I came back into myself, and, you know, God reminded me, you know, that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And even though I'm light skinned, you're just as fearfully and wonderfully made as your younger, darker skinned friend Tarolyn is. You know, we just fearfully and wonderfully made.
Absolutely.
You know, but I'm mature enough,
right,
you know, to see that my experience and all of that, I'm mature enough. And I do still see it, because if you and I are both sitting in the car, and I am going to tell you, if the police roll up, he's going to look at you before he look at me.
Absolutely. And if you're driving, we might get away alive.
There you go. Or if you're driving and I'm in the back seat.
If you see, you know, they might tell you get out the car or let you take the car home and take me to jail.
Go to jail.
Leslie gonna say she did it, officer.
No, I'm gonna say, excuse me, officer, what is the charge? You know,
And I'm gonna say, nigga, get away from my door.
I'm gonna play all of this. I'm gonna use this to my advantage.
Oh no, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail.
And I'm gonna bail you out.
That's right.
Because we both can't go to jail. Somebody got to stay out of jail.
Gail said, be quiet. What you pulling me over for?
This place right here can't go to jail. You know what they do to light-skinned girls in jail now.
You know what?
Not Big Tina. Not Big Tina, Les. We can't deal with Big Tina.
My experience, it was crazy because I actually had a professor tell me in grad school I might want to drop the course.
Oh.
And yeah. And the thing about, I would be up all night researching and doing everything. And this woman would not give me anything better than a C minus. And if you hear my kids, they'll tell you, you don't bring no C in my house.
I know that's right.
So I withdrew from the class, prayed about it, and re-enrolled for the class.
Okay.
And long story short, we ended up going through the, it was my thesis. We ended up going through a mock trial and everything because my degree is in forensics.
Mm-hmm.
And the professor ended up, and again, it's not, I don't think it's a question as they don't expect you to know anything, but they leave the question mark out there for you to prove what you know.
Mm.
So so for me, it's always been, I had to go above and beyond, even if they weren't requiring it. If they asked for a 5-page paper, they was gonna get a 10 from me with a thesis and everything else behind it, because I was gonna
notes and all of that. Yeah.
I was gonna answer the question you might ask if you read it.
Right.
So I ended up taking a lead to a trial that we had, and this professor, after graduation, wrote me a recommendation and asked if she could use my testimony, because we had to give expert testimony for a case, if she could use my testimony in her other courses. And everything in me, her last name was Schwentz, so you already know. So everything in me wanted to say, oh, heck no, you ain't using my stuff. But I was like, yeah, okay. So for me, my experience has not been that they don't think I know anything, but they gave me room to I had to prove what I know.
Got you.
If you can balance it there.
Well, that also lends to the whole thing of whether it's school or whether it's work, that we have to be 2 or 3 times better to even get in the room.
Yeah.
I only have to be 1 time better though.
Yeah, you only 1 level less. Me, I gotta go 2. Tarolyn gotta go like 5.
Right. He gotta go 10.
Because I'm a black man.
Right. Because we didn't even talk about that. We didn't talk about that. The fact that they let a lot more black women in the room than they let black men in the room.
And not only am I'm a black man, but I'm a big black man. So automatically, I'm threatening to them. So anything that I say,
then it depends on what room, because the men may not want you there because they know the women is looking, and then the men don't want you there because they're physically intimidated. So that's a catch-22.
Right. So I'm going to create my own room. Thank you.
That's what black people have had to do. We had to be apostolic in most cases where we wanted to be the head. And then we still run into some sort of glass ceilings at times, because if we're not, if there are people of color in those high level positions, a lot of times that doesn't translate to help for those who are trying to climb.
Right. Right.
No, man.
But it would translate better if the room was full of people of color, you know, because a lot of times you'll have, you know, you got that one brother or that one sister at the top, and they're
so busy trying to prove that they belong there, they're not trying to help
and protect their space, because you know, you can, like I said to you or you or somebody the other night, Gail's got a son, I'm not going to tell his name, you know, who wants to be an actor or who is an actor, but when he was coming up, you know, I had to tell him there's only going to be one Will Smith. you know, because there's only so much room, you know, that they're going to, at that time, there's only going to be so much room, you know, that they're going to allow. How many occupants, you know, there can be. Now we got a little bit, we got a lot more, you know, but the door has opened. You know, the one thing about the time that we're in now, and it's like, you know, when they say stars align, but not only have stars aligned, you know, but health has aligned, and social injustice has aligned. You know, so much has come at this time that doors have been forced open. You know, doors have been forced open, and we need to take advantage of the opportunities that we have now, you know, to be heard and to be seen. I don't really, I really wish that it wasn't, but you know, when you have people that are kind of like on the run right now, you know, because they are waking up, and they want to know, you know, well, what can we do to make it better? We need to strike while the iron is hot, you know, and do what it is that we need to do, because the door is open, the window is open. We've got a window of opportunity now to do some things, not just in the worldwide, nationwide, community-wide, you know, but also in our homes, you know, to bring attention, to those issues that have held us back and held us down. Like I said, not just in the world, but also in our families, you know, in our families, because we were talking about, you know, racism and colorism, you know, it being taught. These are things that are taught from birth, you know, so the environment, the social environment that we're in now is an opportunity for us to be able to start some new ways of thinking in our home, you know, that are going to have impact outside of, starting with our children, young children, our young adults. Opportunities are available to them now, because you know they're not able to go to school, they're not able to go to the gym, they're not able to go to the club. They got a lot more time on their hand, you know, so they're waking up to some things right now that they've never woken up to before. I'm surprised sometimes, even though when I see the protests, where I see young organized Black adults, young adults, and the non-Black adults, young adults, and the young Black kids telling the white kids, you get in the front, you know, and they get in the front, you know, because like there's a place for you in this struggle, and you need to know what your place is in the struggle, because we've been doing this. You know, we've been doing this. Our parents have been doing this. We've been doing this for generations, you know, but there's a part that you all play in this. And now is the time for you to get in the front and talk. You know, like.
I think there's been such a change,
Yeah.
I know, Les,
Yeah.
and such a shift that it's allowing today's younger generation to be more confident that they, who they are, how they are, the color they are, will be accepted than it was back then. And I mean, when you were talking, it just made me think about when Tierra, who is now 24, was 14, going for her first job interview at Leap. I pressed her hair, I bought a little blazer, you know, I made sure she was acceptable. You know what I mean? She's a corporate analyst now for NBC. She go to work with what we used to call them dookie braids in her hair and a sweatshirt. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that we could have never done that 10, 15 years ago. I could have never showed up to work like that. So again, and how that has affected her is, I see her talking to her nieces, and she buys the Black girl books, and she tells them their hair is beautiful, kinky, and she does the puffs in her hair and so that they see someone in their natural state, that they don't have to change their appearance to be accepted.
I'm not a fan of the melting pot at all. You know, I don't want to see all the crayons thrown in and, you know, get all blended up and make one color. I like all the colors, you know,
I think
all
it's
the colors of the
interesting.
text.
I think it's interesting what you're saying, both of you, because I think there's a greater level of acceptance in certain areas because there's so much diversity in families.
Mhm,
So
Yeah.
you could have a grandmother could have a child that looks like me and a child that look like y'all.
mhm,
it's,
That's the
it's
truth.
crazy. And
mhm,
so even and then of course you're going to always have those exceptions to the rule that are like I don't accept you and I'm not going to accept you and blah blah blah.
I, th- there was you speaking of grandparents, kind of. There was a movie that I just watched last week, uh, Insomniac. I couldn't go to sleep, so I found this movie. It's called Little White Lies on Prime.
I was going to say it's on Netflix too. My little brothers used to watch that for some reason.
Okay, and I found it to be extremely interesting. This is the one where the young lady grew up Jewish.
Mm.
Yeah. So she grew up Jewish, not knowing that she had a black father.
Mm.
mhm,
And then once she realized it, she had to confront her mother about the affair that her mother had and how she was born and so on and so forth. Um, and that just goes to show you, I mean, literally her entire family had no idea. They had gone as far as to go and find a picture of someone in the family who was dark to say, this is why you have the dark tone in your skin.
Wow.
And so it wasn't until she became older that she realized, no, I'm not dark because of him. I'm dark because of my daddy. And so nowadays, like you said, everything, there is a spectrum that you receive. And especially from Black people, there is a spectrum. You know, we go from light bright to the darkest dark.
mhm.
We talked about the skin color, but I don't think we dig really into hair texture.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Mine is good. I like my texture.
because hair
Sierra and I
texture.
had this conversation the other day. I was telling her, I say, to be acceptable, we used to do the Vaseline and water. We used to put so much Vaseline to try and make it a little wavy, to make it like we had quote unquote good
Good
hair.
hair. Yes. Yes.
Well, see, in my family, I got sisters that got good hair. They got the curly, you know, or the long wavy. And I
But is
also have sisters. What are you shaking your head now?
is that good hair? See, that's my issue.
Right.
Like,
No,
what?
I put the air quotes in it now. Okay. I put the air quotes in it, the good hair, the wavy, you know, that you don't need the Vaseline in the water.
Because you put the food away.
But I also have the sisters that have the strong, kinky, nappy,
It
you
sounds
know,
like my kind.
strong hair, long, strong hair. And then you have me, who didn't inherit any of that, you know. So my afro was weak, you know.
You have soft hair.
Say that
Your
again.
hair's soft.
My hair is soft, yeah. So it didn't like anything, you know. I couldn't get the afro because it wouldn't get thick and nappy enough, and it was too lightweight to sustain the relaxer.
Mm.
It would just fall out. So you know, I was the natural rocking person early in the game, not by choice though. You know, so I had to find something that would work for what it is that I had to work with. And fortunately, it worked with me, but it also went well with the fact that I'm lazy and don't feel like I got other things to do than mess with my hair. So just chop it off and throw some, you know, stuff in it. And don't even get the eyebrows plucked, and don't put on the fake eyelashes, and don't put on no makeup. You know, those that know me know that I don't have time for that. You
But you're
know,
light skinned, so you can get away with that.
that's what I'm saying. Light skin girl.
I got to listen.
Look,
I've been cautious about going to see Tina
I
to get my
accessorize.
eyebrows done.
That's all I gotta
But
do.
we need all the help we can get when we dark skinned. We need lashes and we need eyebrows plucked and we need
I can even get
wavy
away
hair
with
and
the
all that
dad
kind of stuff.
feet, you know. So,
See, who sets the standard for what's good hair? Because it's closer to the European look. that you
The
don't have
commercial
the
market sets the
that it's
standard.
not full. You know, good hair is supposed to be the hair's ability and the hair's texture to be strong, like the strength of each strand, not whether
Procter & Gamble sets the standard. Even Madam C.J. Walker was setting the standard that was not ours, you know, because she was putting out hair care products,
make
you
it
know.
straight, to
Yeah.
look European, and that's not us.
No, you know, but then you got the market. You got to have the people that are going to come behind the natural hair institutions, you know, that are promoting it. You know, so the more you rock it, the more acceptable it becomes. You know, then somebody wants to invest their money in it, and it becomes commercially viable.
Well, you just go ahead.
I still have an issue with the fact that natural hair has its own category. Why is it not good hair?
Oh, it's good now though. It's making a comeback.
What
You know,
is
Is
what?
it good hair
Just like
or is
dark
it
skin
palatable hair?
It's
Here's
cultural. It's cultural. I think it's cultural.
So
We've
the
been
word
brainwashed to think that kinky hair is not the standard, and straighter and curlier hair is better. We just been brainwashed to believe it. Because even when we look at people, like the last 2 days, I wasn't this together. I had washed my hair in the shower, and I didn't even blow dry it with a comb. I just let it be.
That's your hair.
And then I had a afro pick stuck it down in the back of it, right? And so when I went to my mother's house today to have them braid it down so I could get this hair, my mother was like, "Thank God, hallelujah!" And so I think it's a cultural thing.
It is.
Because I'm grateful that I'm not bald, praise God. And it's too hot at this point for any straightening, because as soon as you come outside, you're right back to afro. So I don't have time for that in my life. But if it was acceptable to be a dark-skinned sister with an afro, clearly Annette didn't appreciate it. Annette didn't appreciate the afro. We're talking about what we've been raised with and what was culturally acceptable based on our family, because we didn't even get onto that. My mother was very clear that when you're dating now, because you might mess up and have a child with somebody, make sure that they don't have that peasy stuff, no beady beats, because you might end up with a daughter. Now, mind you, how you doing, Miss Coretta? See. she says like India Ari, I'm not my hair, but you're preferring certain people because you want to look out for the children's.
But the crazy thing about it is that's not even a guarantee, because them jeans sometimes reach way back.
Can the brother with no hair?
For Bubba that had the buckwheat braids, and then you got somebody that now everybody questioning, is that really his child?
Right.
But you had the hair issue. I had the skin issue. We had a barometer, I should say, if you will, that the individual you were dating had to be above this color.
Oh, not the brown bag. Not the brown bag.
We didn't get to the brown bag. We was just like, don't you bring nobody home darker than.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's funny because I married a high yellow person, and when we divorced, was attracted to dark skinned men.
Okay.
So it's like what you had to do, you did.
Okay.
And then when you no longer had those requirements, you did what you wanted to do.
Got you. And I wonder how many people, Miss Coretta, did you have this problem with the colorism? Was your family on some go for light skin, or what was the story there?
My first husband was like.
I never knew that.
You didn't know that?
No.
So I kind of related what she said, because I was like, I ain't
no more of them. No more light skinned ones.
Well, you know what? That's funny because I had an experience with a light-skinned young lady. And it was after we broke up and she showed up at my house and was beeping her horn and screaming my name outside. I became traumatized. I said, never again. Never again.
Well, my second husband will clearly be dating a light skinned sister because I would be her outside your house blowing the horn, calling your name. Okay.
Yeah, I was never really a big fan of the lighter skinned brothers because I knew some of the baggage they could potentially be carrying with them, because of them being light skinned, the challenges that they have to face on a regular basis and who it is they might think that they are because they're light skinned and all of that. And we couldn't both be dealing with that at the same time, but I also knew that, and I also knew that a darker skinned brother is going to be showing up unapologetically black because he can't hide. He can't hide his blackness. He gonna be black, so whatever it is that he is, he's gonna be that and he's gonna be strong in it. And that was probably the most appealing to me, because he's gonna be strong in it. He cannot hide. He can't hide. So if he shows up, he's showing up. And as a light-skinned sister who didn't have it, I need somebody that's gonna show up, and show up for exactly who they are. Now I have to be able to see through it and see what it is that he's looking for. Because if he's looking for Becky, and that's the problem that I faced, a lot of them were looking for me to be the Becky, or the closest thing to the Becky. And because of that, they didn't see me and they missed out. God has something else planned for me anyway.
Go ahead, Gail.
So do you think that in any way you encourage your son to be accepting of different races then?
Yes and no. I allowed him, as I was allowed in certain things, I allowed him his room to grow. I was a single parent at 16, but I had the honor and the privilege of raising my son while my mama was there. So I was able to grow into motherhood, but once I got out of the house, now it was all on me. And I had to do things a little bit differently, but I kept in the back of the mind the seeds that my mother had sown on how to be a mother. So when my son made choices, it was like, just be clear about those choices. Be clear about your choices. I'm hoping that he's not watching this because I said I wasn't going to talk about him. But between me and you, his first love was a very dark complexion young lady that had my heart and had his heart. And not because of anything traumatic that happened, but you're a teenager about to graduate from high school, and her choice was to go into the Navy. And by going into the Navy, she was going to be gone, and she broke the relationship, and that broke his heart. And I didn't find out that it broke his heart until, I hope he's not listening, years later, I found the letter that he wrote about how she broke his heart. But I saw after that him exposing himself to everybody and anybody, not in a negative way, but he didn't restrict himself to being able to find what his heart needed, and I'm not saying that she turned him out, or turned him away, but that I saw in that relationship that he knew that, okay, I have to open myself up, which on the one hand, I'm real glad because it didn't break him from wanting to find that wife, because he was looking for a wife, to find that wife. But I saw him in his journey while he was waiting for his wife, crossing all kinds of cultural barriers and cultural and racial, He didn't bring anybody home. He didn't introduce me to anybody. I would see him on Facebook or whatever, and it wasn't until he had who he thought was going to be his wife did I get introduced to her.
I like that.
I think Tarolyn said earlier about the green-eyed, fair skin that you're looking for, but they're not looking for you. Mm-hmm. So it made me think about, like, my daughters we've had our chats. They will not date outside the race. Like a mother says, I want you to be happy, date someone who treats you well, and regardless of the race, and that's what we say, and ultimately that's what we want. But if we had a choice,
right. Mad brother, stronger.
But also your daughters know the value of their worth. We talk about generations and all of that. We are now the grandparents. We're at the the top level. So either we have to change, we have to shift things. We're the ones that are responsible now, that we either generational curses. You have to change generational curses. You have to put a stop to certain things and shift them in the direction. So we're in that place. And you set a tone with your daughters that you choose what works for you. And because you see you and you love you, then it's natural, that you're gonna look for you. And what you are, whether it's the complexion or not, they're strong in who they are as Black women, regardless of their complexion. So they are going to seek and desire a Black man. That's just the way it is.
So I was hoping he had something to say, because I have 2 boys, and I was going to ask you, how did that play a role with you choosing a mocha goddess? Because I got 2. And my one son went to Pace in New York. And if you know Pace, the culture is not all of us. And that is what he gravitates to. And that's what gravitates towards him.
I was going to actually ask the question. And of course, I don't want anybody to take this out of context. But as a father, I have 3 boys. And the 2 that are here in Virginia with me, it's always been, whatever you feel is going to work for you with an underlying tone, I will make the final decision. And part of that final decision may be based on what I see. And I'm hoping we can kind of read through, there's certain things that I guess I just don't want my kids to have to deal with the culture shock of marrying someone who is so far, and catch this, this is the key, someone who is so far out of their culture. Mm-hmm. So for my I was gonna say my students, but for my young men who have been raised in the suburbs, who, to go to the city and pull someone from the city who does not have the same values, you're dealing with a whole nother culture now. And you've got to, and at this point, it really don't have much to do with skin color. For me, it's about, is this gonna fit? Mm-hmm. Like, is it gonna fit? Because if you go, I don't know how to say it without just saying it. Don't go date somebody whose parents make $14 million a year. That's a whole nother culture. We don't meet up. They don't understand us. I don't understand them. I don't understand how it is to have $14 million cash money sitting around that I can do anything I want. That young lady will not know the struggle. So when you have to go through a struggle, she won't know it. Now, don't go and grab the person who made $12 an hour and you're making $150,000 an hour, because now your money gonna be gone because we rich.
Mhm.
So and then of course, you know, I'll just say one of my sons, the middle one, he dated a young lady for a little while who was very light skinned, and you know, we never said you cannot, but when he came home, I think it was at a school event, we were introduced to her, and the wife is, women in general are very discerning. So immediately she said, "That's not going to be the one." I'm on a line. It's all right. She's very discerning, and so she's like, "That's not going to be the one." And so when she said that, I was good. I didn't have anything else to say, because if she said that and she was discerning, then I know that, okay, so we can move on. This is something that's going to eventually pass. I don't know if I answered your question or not. Did I answer your question?
I think what you were saying is it's not a color thing. It's more of a economic thing,
Well,
and
it's kind of a color thing,
what fits his lifestyle, what fits for him.
but
So
it's.
unfortunately, Gail,
I'm going to be honest. It is
one of
kind of a color
those
thing.
high yellow ones might fit for him.
Well,
You just got to pray and ask the Lord to help you.
you know what? I'll say it like this. Okay, high yellow, I ain't got no problem with. Caramel, I ain't got no problem with. No color, and maybe, you know,
we might have a concern.
I just have, you know, that's one of those things that God is working on me with, you know. But I'll just be honest, that's a struggle for me to see if one of my kids came home with somebody with no color.
Mhm.
You
Well,
know,
is it okay? Because I don't know
Or
who I
no
spoke
culture.
to about this. It's the why. If you're just naturally like I think it was Gail. I said I like caramel. Okay, I love caramel colored skins and about 6'3". Okay, that's what I like.
yes, we know because of the pictures you be posting.
Yes.
But listen, but hear me out. It's not because there's an external pressure for me to prefer that.
Mhm.
And sometimes I wonder, and no offense, don't y'all start with me. With Kobe having a wife that wasn't black at all, and you know, and other young men looking at that as the standard, is a problem for me, because you could have a Rhoda Gale as arm candy because she's a good looking woman. Why are you preferring the Brazilian chick with the long hair? Why is that's my problem?
What else does she bring to the relationship
Well,
besides that?
that
You gotta
it's
have more than that. Even in our cultures, you know, we as mothers and parents and fathers, we would expect that they would come with more than just their appearance. You know, like my son is.
Especially when they're being raised by strong black women that have held them down, that taught them everything they know, and then you're going to turn around and say, "I don't prefer you." Are you? Listen.
But even if you know my son were to come home with the darkest, most Nubian, beautiful princess, you know, if she didn't come with anything other than that,
Right.
then that's
That's
not
the
enough.
problem.
That's
That's the
not
problem.
that is not
But
enough. You know.
the issue, Les, is give them a chance. Like, don't disqualify them out the gate because their hair is not wavy and their skin is not glistening.
Oh
Like,
yeah. You from the gate, but it's from the gate.
Right.
You know
so we
that they
ask,
have
why
to.
is that more attractive to you?
well,
Right.
you
Why
know
is
what?
it
I'm going to say from a man's standpoint of view, it is attractive because that is what we've been indoctrinated into.
That's what you see.
They told our black women, go make your hair silky smooth. They told our black women, go lighten up your skin, you know, with the bleaches and all of that kind of stuff. They pushed, and when I say they, I mean marketing, pushed that image on us. Then they went and they got these superstars and encouraged them to marry the white ones because for whatever reason, you know. But now again, now I'm looking up, like you just said, I'm looking up to that Kobe and saying, this is what Kobe doing. This is what I need to be doing. This how Kobe did it, you know. And please, like Tarolyn said, don't come for me, okay? I'm just, the facts are the facts.
But I would say this. But I would say this, team. They pushed the standard of beauty, but that's not who they was raping. That's not who they was raping, because they was raping Big Mama and them. Big Mama looked like me.
Well,
okay?
you know why they was.
Well,
you know why they was raping Big Mama.
There wasn't no Sally Hemings till after they raped Big Mama. And then after they raped Big Mama, then they had Sally Hemings, and then they did continue to rape Sally Hemings.
Come on.
And then they got lied. It didn't matter. It was just what was available to them, I believe, at that time. That's all.
After a while, because when we came off the boat, we was straight up black. It wasn't no mix. It wasn't no madam with the straightened hair. It was more cushion. Praise God.
Gail, you don't know. Brother don't know. You don't know.
What were you saying, Gail? I didn't hear you.
And that's why Brazil and all these other countries are making all this money, because they're getting them pumped up. But they don't want us that come naturally with it.
That's the same thing of people who go and sit in a tanning booth. Everybody want to be brown, but nobody wants to be black.
You don't want the struggle.
It's almost like you want the gift, but you don't want the package it's in.
That's
and
good.
So I teach you to hate yourself because I want to be you. You got to be careful. You got to watch those cooks. I teach you to hate yourself, but then I want to be you. I want to modify to be like you, but I want you to hate you.
Because I don't really want to be you.
I think this generation is starting to realize that. But again, we have so many people throughout our lineage that have this negative view of what beauty actually is. You know?
That's why our young people be yelling, you know, and why they're loud, you know, and why sometimes you do have to allow people to yell and be loud, you know, so that it stays a constant and it doesn't die out. One thing, Rhoda Gail, you know, like our pastor, your old pastor, my pastor would say is, sometimes you just gotta wait for old people to die, you know, before.
Well, that's biblical, because Moses had to die for Joshua to come.
Yeah, you know, and in the meantime, you have to also work with those that may be getting indoctrinated in the old way, you know, that the dead people are supposed to take with them because it's dead, you know. But so you've got to work to maintain the, you know, we're the elder. Well, I'm an elder now, you know, so I have to work to maintain some of the tradition, you know, but it's got to be modified so that it works now. You know, there's the conviction, there's the strength, there's the history, you know, but the tradition, if the tradition no longer works for the current times, you know, then that tradition really has it has no weight right about now, you know. But I also have to help to strengthen the young folks. You know, I have to be there as the mentor, you know, and allow them to define, you know, define the course. You know, the end is still the end, but how they get there, you know, I can't stop them from going in that direction, but I can help them to define how they travel that course. You know?
I think that there needs to be some corrections on more than one front. There need to be some serious corrections in our education system and how we teach our history. Let's just cut the chase. And then at home, we have to start straightening out some things in the household.
Absolutely.
Because our family structures tore up from the floor up, and everything's going on. And so again, it's what we are exposed to that we think is normal. Even though we continue to say the new normal, the new normal, the new normal, this new normal may get us in trouble if we take away foundational things.
Yes.
The same thing I was saying with the church. Now, so many people are upset with the church because of some of the wrong turns that they think they might have turned. But we cannot move the old landmarks in some case scenarios, because we got to find our way home. And I think some of those traditions don't work anymore because we don't know the value of them. Something simple, like we don't sing hymns a lot in church anymore because we've traded it for CCM and Tasha Cobbs and all. But if we understood what the tradition of it was, it would have more validity and more weight, and it would be more substance for when you go far from home. You have a little something to take with you. So, so I think that's very important as we are trying to let young people be young people. I say to my siblings, oh, nobody won't listen to me. And because you want to know why we're not listening? Because you're not the smartest one yet. The young is supposed to listen to the old for wisdom's sake. Now, what you go do with that in the world is your business. Praise God. How you show up in the world is fine. But we've got to correct some things on the primitive level, because I think that's where we're losing the game at.
But I think we're in a position now where there's so many parents, our generation, who are more concerned with not upsetting their child, that they allow them to make their own choice. And I'll even say it from when I was teaching children's ministry. It would burn me to no end to hear a parent say, well, they didn't want to come to children's ministry today, and I didn't want to make what? You make them go to school every day, you make them brush their teeth, but you don't want to make them listen to the word of, I not understand that. Yeah. But then they wonder why, when they get in high school and after that they don't even want to go to church.
I think everybody wants to defend the millennials or all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, we're not saying that they're not smart. We're just saying that they don't have a God consciousness. And I continue to say, you cannot expect a police officer to pull you over and be righteous without having some sort of moral righteous training. And that's where it comes from, the church. I can't hear you, Scene. Is your phone on mute?
I said that's good.
Yeah, you can't expect that. And so even if we're going to have all these diversities in the way we interpret the scripture and how we live it out, we at least got to know what it is.
We hear it.
A funny story on just to prove my point. I said to one of my brothers one time, it was Yom Kippur, and I said, oh, do you know what today is? Because he had the day off from school. He's like, nah, I don't know that guy, Tier. And we laughed about it because, it's a Jewish holiday and he really shouldn't have known who it was. But I'm like, just the fact that he says he didn't know who the guy was. He had no concept. Right. And so I'm like, these are things, even if you're going to have a day off from school, one teacher should say, this is what Yom Kippur. One teacher? We have this day off.
You do know that in schools nowadays, and I've been teaching for 7 years, and I'm really starting to get an understanding of it. That we don't educate, we indoctrinate, we push an agenda. Literally, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I have been in situations where I have been told that grade will not do, you need to change it.
Wow.
And then I've sat and I've said, but that is the grade that they earned.
Right.
And they said, I don't want anyone coming and speaking to me about this grade. And when we talked about anyone coming, we weren't talking about the parent who we can sit down and have a conversation with. We were talking about administration.
Wow.
Because our children are a commodity.
Yeah, the numbers will be off.
Right. It's all about money, and that's it. And so if the money is straight, and if you're in this, I hate to say it business, but if you're in this education business, you will know that between September and January, we don't expel anybody.
Mhm.
Why? Because come January, that's when we can start putting kids out of school, because we have to have those consistent numbers between September and December.
Wow.
And because we know come January, that's when we gonna start getting funded. But if I kick 50 kids out of school because of their poor behavior in the beginning of the year, when it's time for me to get funded, I'm getting funded for 50 kids less.
Wow.
So
One thing that I was really pleased about, like in my upbringing, and I know this now, I didn't get the majority of my education in school. You know, we and
right,
that might have been, and I don't know, but going to parochial school, it was a different kind of learning system, but that's what it was. It was a learning system as opposed to a teaching. You were given assignments. We did an awful lot of reading. We did work on our own. Even having the coursework that we had was different, where we were not we learned things by what it is that we took in while we were either researching it or studying it or having to write papers. You read a book so that you could write a book report, but while you were reading the book, you had to be mindful of certain things because you needed to pull out of that book certain things. So it wasn't so much the story, but the meaning behind the story. So,
The critical thinking that
the
goes along.
critical thinking, yes. And if you have that's something that you're not going to get in school. You can be, taught how to be a critical thinker, but you can also get that if you don't get it in school, and that's what was super imposed, I guess you might say, at home.
Yeah.
When we came home from school, we sat down at the table and did home. What? Oh, okay. I thought he was putting
Because
on the wig.
study was a part of your family culture.
Yes, as well as structure. We had structure, we had discipline. We went to church every Sunday. We went to Catholic church, but we went to church every Sunday. I came out of the Catholic church. I didn't go to no church, but I knew the Bible.
Mm.
I knew the Bible. I didn't have a relationship with God, but I knew the Bible because that was part of the teaching. So I think that same structure that we're expecting our children to get from school, some of the things we're expecting our children to get from school, they're not going to get it from school. They shouldn't have to get it from school. We're responsible for
We
doing
got to
that.
bring it back home.
You got to bring it back home. Like we want our teachers to be babysitters, social workers, dietitians,
Everything.
everything. And it's the same thing with our police departments. We want our police officers to be social workers, addiction counselors and all of that, but and I'm not saying, that we as parents are failing our children, because there's a whole bunch that goes behind that, but it's got to be, it's got to be a priority. You got to make it work. You got to make it do what it got to do. You got to make it, and if somebody's not able to do that, then we need to find out what it is that the parents need in order to be able to do that, to uplift them, to strengthen them so that they can be able to do that for their children, not necessarily for the parent, but so that the parent can be that parent for their child, so that that child can grow up to be that discerning, decision-making, critical thinking individual, whether or not they become a paleontologist or an auto mechanic, because we need auto mechanics. I don't know
You're
how
talking
much we need paleontologists right about now, but
I want to thank all of you guys for being on tonight. The night is far spent. I've taken more time of your time than I wanted to, but I appreciate
so we
you
gotta go.
having the time. I just want to know. I want to give everybody 1 minute to give their final thought on colorism, or something that you think you brought with you into your adulthood that might have been impactful in who you are, or just your thought overall on colorism, and or what we should be doing, or where do we go from here. All right, we'll start with you, Rhoda.
I said it on the onset. I think that it has to start in the home. We have to realize that we're doing things to set different standards or even display judgment again within our own culture, our own race. Whether it's the go and comb your peasy head, or or put some Vaseline in water, or put on, even as far as I'll say with the girls, put in foundation on that lightens your skin. We have to identify for them, or encourage within the home that they are worthy, that they are enough, that there's nothing wrong with who they are.
That's good. That's good. That's good. All right, Leslie.
And in addition to that, not to repeat what Gail is saying, but then once we do that, I think to continue to give people the support, give them the support and the tools so that that can be sustained. We tell our children, you know, you're kind, you're beautiful, you're smart, you know, but when they go out into the world and they're told something different, we have to not just continue to tell them they're kind, beautiful, and smart, but help them to think about and realize and identify for themselves what makes you kind, beautiful, and smart, and what can you do, you know, to continue to be kind, beautiful, and smart, because you're not always going to hear it from me. So you're going to have to be able to regurgitate that, you know, and encourage yourself that I am, you know, when somebody tells you that you're not, but I am, you know, and I am until I'm proven otherwise. And even after that, I am.
That's right.
So,
that's good.
I think that that's because, you know, your image and likeness, you know, I thank God for being saved, sanctified, and 66, you know, but when I found out that I am a child of God and he has made me, you know, exactly who he wanted me to be, I was good after that. Because can't nobody tell me what my daddy told me ain't true.
That's good. Thank you. All right, Pastor Scene, let's hear it.
You want me to say something?
Profound.
See, why you had to go there? Black is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Black is beautiful in every shade and every color. You know, we don't want the next generation growing up with that situation, dealing with a colorism issue, being separate because I'm light and you're dark, or you're in between, or whatever. We've got to put it into people. We got to put it into our families. And it goes back to what Pastor T was saying. We really got to put it into our families. It has to start at home. And like the situation I had with Jeremiah, you got to let him know you dark, but you got everything everybody else got. And keep pushing that message, that narrative with the people in your circle, and let people know wherever you are, whoever you are, Black is beautiful.
Absolutely.
And accept that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I guess
guys.
that's about as profound as I'm gonna get tonight.
That's great.
It's good to have friends. That's what I'm gonna say tonight. It's good to have friends. Thank you guys. I appreciate y'all. And until next week, you're watching T is Talking. God bless y'all. Have a good night.
Oh.